Hey all, welcome back to the lab. In this video, we're going to be discussing the problem with clones and Rust and why functional Rust is slower than you think and how to fix it. So I've been exploring high-level Rust as a way to get 80% of Rust's benefits with 20% of the pain. And the core idea is basically use immutable data with functional pipelines and generous cloning to avoid borrow checker and lifetime plex. Now there's just one main problem, and that's that clones in Rust are expensive, far more expensive than in most mainstream languages, which typically means far more expensive than we think, than our gut tells us it is. And if you're not careful, your high-level Rust can actually run slower than garbage-collected languages like C#, TypeScript, or Python, which is like bad, because at that point, just use those languages. And so in this post, I want to dig into why Rust clones are expensive, how they compare to other languages, and how to fix it so you can write functional Rust without tanking your performance. Okay, so why Rust clones are different. So in most languages, most mainstream languages at least, copying an object is cheap because you're copying references, not data. So let's say we're in C#, we have a record, it has a string field, and this is a list field, which I should make that more clear, but that's what it is. And then we use the with syntax to basically get a new version of this, but we've only changed Bob. In this case, tags still points to the same memory as p1.tags, and Bob is the only new string allocated because we have a new string that we need to point to. Now C#, TypeScript, and Python all do shallow copies by default. This is basically a shallow clone. So when you clone a record, you copy pointers to the existing data rather than duplicating it. And this is fine. The garbage collector is handling like pointers, how many things are pointing to like the same piece of data, and then we'll handle cleaning it up later. I do want to call out because, F# guy, done F# in the past, and we'll talk about F# later here, is that it goes a bit further with its default collection. So its list, its map, and its set use structural sharing. So when you modify an immutable collection, you basically create a new version that reuses most of the old structure. And so only the change nodes are new, and so everything else points to the same memory as before. And so cloning those are actually very cheap because it's basically, again, pointing to the same structure when you actually clone, and you only pay the cost for that on mutation. And so a bit different than what they're doing here, but still get really, really cheap clones because they're doing this fancy stuff inside. And you can do this in Rust with crates like Emble, and we'll talk about other ones that do that later. Now, if we go to Rust, Rust is doing deep copies of structs and collections by default. So when you call .clone on a struct with strings and vex, you're allocating new heap buffers and copying all of the data. And so let's say we have the struct person, we've got an ID, we've got a name, and we've got an email, both strings, and then we just create our person. Then when we actually go to clone this, or even if you use the with operator equivalent here, we're going to get an entirely new object. So it's not going to point to the same strings that they have. What we're going to do is we're going to copy the primitive i64, which is basically free. But these strings, we're actually allocating new heap buffers for both of them, even though we haven't changed anything about them. And now these like full deep clones are technically more correct, right? Like we're not running into issues where, oh, we did a clone, but it wasn't a deep clone. And now if you change like something in this version, it's also changing ones over here, but we didn't think that would happen because we cloned it. So we assumed we had like a copy of it. Instead, you actually have a pointer to it. And so this is more correct, but it is also much, much slower. And so how much slower is this? Well, let's take a look. So for our example, we do a shallow copy. This will be like C#, TypeScript, Python, F# because these strings are immutable. This is shared memory. It's really just copying pointers. And so we're expecting this to be on the order of like 30 nanoseconds. And then Rust is doing a deep clone. So we are actually doing new heap allocations for both of these. And we're expecting this to be 3 to 5 times slower, around 200 nanoseconds. And these are like approximate performance comparisons just pulled from like standard benchmarks across them. So they're probably off a little bit, but magnitude wise, this is about what we can expect. And so here we've got like our C# records, especially the structs, where we're just copying the references. Rust arc fields actually perform quite well, as we'll talk about later, because this is really just doing ref count bumps. We are not actually copying the underlying data. F# is also fast. It just gets a new heap object and copies the refs. TypeScript is a little bit different because it does this weird like property copy. And then Python is just slower because it's doing a new dict and object, but still pretty fast because down here is when we have Rust with its own strings, which deep clones all fields, which is just much slower than all of them. And so the takeaway here is that naive Rust clones are 3 to 5 times slower than the equivalent operation in most mainstream garbage collected language. And so you've got a fancy visual for that. And the takeaway is Rust arc fields are fast. So if we're going to do clones, this is probably what we're going to want to use. We are not going to want to do clones on full struct. And as we'll talk about later, if you're doing this in just like CRUD web APIs, it probably doesn't matter. But if you're doing this in any kind of like hot path or chaining functional, like doing, I guess, like pure transforms and functional pipes, this kind of thing where you're cloning a lot, like doing like 3 to 5 clones per function, and you call that function a lot, then this 3 to 5x, memory overhead can really catch up to you, and eventually can make you start, performing less than these GC languages, which we'd expect to typically be far outpaced by Rust. Okay, so why do GC languages usually win at cloning? GC being garbage collected, and they get cheap copies by default because strings are immutable references under the hood, and so they aren't doing a full heap allocation to copy those over. They just copy pointers for unchanged fields instead of, again, just doing a full copy on those. And then the GC handles cleanups later, so they're not doing like allocations and deallocations right at the time of creation and removal, which means that they can batch all of the cost of cleaning up that dangling memory, whereas Rust, one of its benefits is that it doesn't do that, but in this programming style sometimes is actually worse off. And so again, for like mutation heavy code, this is a win for Rust. Rust's memory baselines are like far lower than C#, especially TypeScript, Python, in the order of like 10x. Like, think of .NET, it's going to be running at 200, 300 megabytes at all times. Typical Rust app doing basically the similar things will be like 20 to 30 megabytes. So you do get a lot of benefits from this, but if you are allocating and deallocating very fast in Rust, that does catch up to you because there is overhead in those allocations and deallocations. So for mutation heavy code, huge win for Rust, but for clone heavy functional code pipelines, it does become a tax, and so we have to be very careful about this. And so now how do we fix slow clones, which I care about because I like doing functional pipes in every language, whether or not it makes sense or not? And there's basically two approaches. And the first is just don't clone, use mutation. This is idiomatic Rust. It leverages the ownership system for safe mutations. That's one of the big benefits of it. That's like how it can approach metal performance while still being safe and having good expressive types. And by doing this, you don't have the garbage collection overhead, or in our case, the like allocation overheads if you do clone heavy Rust. And so regardless of whether you choose to go this for your whole app, if you have a hot path, reach for mutations, it is going to be faster, it's going to be more idiomatic, and this is the way to go with Rust in general. Now, option two is to make clones cheap. And so if you want functional pipelines with generous cloning, like I do with high-level Rust, then you need to make your clones cheap. And the way to do this is to make your Rust structs behave like garbage collected language structs internally. And so this is going to be like, instead of using strings, use arc string, which allows you to just have a pointer to that string. And this is going to be immutable, more like what you'd expect from a GC language. Instead of using the built-in collections, you're going to want to use arc collection, which is just a ref counter to that collection per array, or you use these immutable crates that allow us to get collections that act more like what F# is doing, where the clones are free and we pay overhead instead and the writes. And then for nested structs, you're going to want to have arcs as well, so that we're not doing deeply nested clones. We actually are just doing ref counters to those structs, assuming that those structs are actually like immutable under the hood. And so with these arcs, we're basically saying we're going to do a reference instead of cloning the whole thing. And at scale, this becomes like quite useful. These are obviously like really huge pieces of data that like you probably wouldn't be cloning. And if you ever had that, you'd probably just mutate it anyway. But just to give you an idea of the difference in speeds when we're trying to do these is on the order of like 10 to 100 times. But again, this is like on the far end. On the low end, it's going to be closer to like 20%, 50%, 100% kind of thing. So again, by doing this, your clones basically become as cheap as C# or F#, which are the garbage collected languages, which is what we want because then we can still outperform them on our CPU and memory usage. So this basically looks like this, right? Primitives, we don't need to do anything. These are just copies, which is basically free. For strings, we're going to use arc string, which allows us to the ref count bump, assuming address is also basically a string or a struct under the hood. And then for collections, we're going to use these immutable collections instead of the built-in ones so that we can do pointer copies and structural sharing, so we don't have to actually copy the data all over. Now, some helpful crates for this is IMBL, which has all the persistent collections. We've got arc string, small string to do faster, more ergonomic arcs on string. We got bytes for bytes, and then Triumph, which is faster arc. But I think for the most part, you don't really need that, so just stick with regular arc. And so as you can see, cloning is much faster in these persistent collections, but we pay for this in mutations. So where built-in collections are going to be O1 for mutations, all of these immutable persistents are going to be closer to log n. And so you are going to have to balance like how much are you mutating this versus how much are you cloning this. And again, if you are mutating things a lot in a hot path, you're probably just going to be better off going with mutation. Okay, one gotcha to call out with Rust, which unfortunately makes this even more complicated and unfortunate, is that cheap and expensive clones look the same. And so here's an example. When you're doing a clone, it's all just .clone, and there is no way to know, besides like what you call this thing, this variable, is this going to cost me 500 nanoseconds or is this going to cost me 30 nanoseconds? And there's just no current type level distinction. And so you can accidentally introduce expensive clone and tank your performance without any compiler warning. This could be by adding a .clone somewhere in your data, or you just like change the struct somewhere upstream and now you didn't know there's a clone downstream, and now that path is like 10x slower. And so I saw this and I was like, this is a big problem for me if I'm trying to write high level Rust. And so what I'm doing is writing a light clone to help with this, which is basically a crate that provides a trait that enforces cheap clones at compile time by ensuring that all underlying data types are predetermined to be cheap. And so this is things like it's arc wrapped, or it implements copy, or it's a known persistent data structure, like from Emble or RPDS. Any of those we know can clone cheaply. It's pretty early, but the goal is to make the type system catch these expensive clones so you can avoid unexpected perf hits. And so instead of doing .clone, you do .light clone. And if your object doesn't have .light clone on it, then it doesn't fulfill these things, and it would actually result in some underlying expensive clones. And so that's something that you can look out for. So examples like this, you put this derive on top, and basically this won't compile because you have a string here. But if you instead change that to an arc string, it's like, okay, that's fine. All of these implement light clone. And so now you can do .light clone on this struct. I want to note that this isn't the only approach. This is the one that I came up with because it was annoying me and I couldn't find another solution to it. But there are some other alias proposals in the Rust community to address this at the language level, but they haven't moved much. And I've heard that this alias proposal has been around since like 2018. And so it's unclear how soon they'll actually land. And finally, like, does any of this actually matter for like web APIs and like standard app level programming? And the answer is like for typical web API backends, probably not much, right? Our clone overhead is like way down here, but our external API calls and database queries are going to be in the milliseconds. And so for the most part, this is just like tiny overhead compared to any kind of like IO that we're doing. And so for any of these kind of just like CRUD APIs, it probably just doesn't matter much if you're just doing it, every now and then, and you're not doing functional pipes that ends up leading to like 5 to 20 clones in a request cycle. But I still think like it's very useful to keep an eye on this, because especially as you scale larger as like a company or a web app and you get in like the millions of lines of codes, a simple request can hit like so many different function calls. And if you're doing clones all the way down, this scales non-linearly. So I want to be careful of that. Now, where clone performance does matter, and really just like mutation performance matters, is going to be like your batch data processing, tight loops over large collections, game engines and real-time systems, and anywhere that you're actually CPU bound. And so for all of those, you're probably going to want to reach for mutations, at least for the core game loop, at least for the core hot paths. And even in web APIs, I would say do it for the hot paths. Like, don't write these clones and your caching layer or your auth layer or anything. Probably just prefer mutations for that stuff. But I think for general high-level apps, you can reach for high-level Rust. You can use light clone to enforce cheap clones and enjoy the DevX improvement that it provides. Next. So Rust clone behavior is one of the hidden costs of using it as a high-level language. Unlike garbage collected languages, where cloning is cheap by default, Rust requires you to think about memory and opt into cheap clones by using arc and immutable collection. The good news is once you know the pattern, it's not hard to apply. Use arc string instead of string, use Emble vectors instead of vex, and then wrap nested structs in arc. Your clones become garbage collected language cheap while still keeping Rust other benefits. Now, if you're interested in this approach, check out light clone. I'm building it to make the type system enforce cheap clones so you don't accidentally tank your performance. Start on GitHub if you want to support it and continue to see it develop. Now, if you like this post, you might also like high-level Rust, getting 80% of the benefits for 20% of the pain. You might also be interested in the missing programming language, why there's no S-tier language yet, and finally, why I'm moving my blog from F# to C#. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.